Welcome to Born to Be Brave today. I am so excited about our guest. Keston Glasgow is joining us today. And I've never met Keston except for a few minutes before this show, but I have followed him on social media. And that's what is so powerful about today's day and age. It makes it so easy to meet and follow awesome people. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about him and then we're going to talk. So he's a real estate investor, shocking. And a married man, and he helps married men stay married while they build their wealth because so many people give up their family to build wealth. And I love that that's your mission to help men stay married while they're building their wealth. And you're big on God and Jesus. We were just talking about that. And I'm big on God and Jesus too. They're good friends of mine. And so, welcome to the show, Born to Be Brave.
Man, thank you for such an amazing introduction. And man, I am huge on marriage, right? Like, because as you study and you look at what's happening in the world, what I believe is that most people now have this frame that to be successful, I can't do it married, or I can't do it with this person because this person has a different mindset. And I've seen so much divorce happening that it just breaks my heart. I'm a divorcee as well, which is where that pain, when I see other people go through a divorce, I remember the pain that I went through 14 years ago. And so that's kind of a big part of my mission to help people, or men especially, not have that same experience, because I've learned some tools to be able to have a more blissful, seamless marriage.
I love that you're taking your mess and making it your message, right?
Come on. That's what I believe, that's what most people, or if not everyone, should do. I believe there's some intersection of purpose when you take your mess and you make it your message.
Yeah.
1000%.
And you're vulnerable and you share real life experience and you just help somebody that's a little further behind you on the path, right?
Yeah, and if you want to, because most people who, when they try to discover their purpose, they're like, but I don't know who I would help. I don't know how I would get paid. And so a lot of these things cripple most people from discovering their purpose. But like you just said, if you could just put a hand out, just a few steps back, even forward, because the thing that I have dealt with and gone through, there are multi-billionaires who need my service, right? So it's not limited to people who are still coming up. It's
Hmm.
This is a world epidemic that's happening, where you're doing entrepreneurship or working on, even if you're a nine to fiver, but the person who has a mindset of success and achievement, they tend to leave their family and their marriage behind in the sake of trying to do it for their family, by the way. But they end up leaving their family behind and causing so much of a domino effect where the the kids, they end up hating business. They don't want to do business because business was the thing that separated them from their parents, right?
Hmm.
They even grow up fatherless, where their father wasn't there. So they're a little bit more promiscuous because they never had guidance, and now they're seeking love from others. And so they're even drugs. They're
Drugs.
finding to cope. So there are all of these domino effects of a father not being there. But the opposite is also true. When I do my work and help men be able to stay united with their family and stay connected, the opposite is also true, where we prevent a lot of those things from happening, even with the domino effect of going back as far as preventing people from going into jail simply because the father remained at home.
Yeah, they say that in jail. I'm big on jail advocacy. I mean, you probably wouldn't know it by looking at me. There's a lot. Anyway, I'm really big on jail advocacy. And when you go into the jails, they say statistically, I think it's like 90% grew up in fatherless homes. It's some,
Wow.
I don't know if it's 80 or 90. I wasn't prepared to talk about jail advocacy in this situation, so I
No
didn't review the
worries.
numbers. I don't know what it is. If it's for sure over 70%, but I think it was
Yeah.
way higher than that, right? And so the impact of a father, I would say that like I had a phenomenal father, right? So it's
Mhm.
very unusual. I now know as an adult, I thought everyone grew up with a dad like me, right? Because when you have your scope when you're a kid, right? You think everyone's like your house, right?
Yeah.
And my dad was like Johnny on the spot, right?
Hmm.
And so he wasn't well, I don't want to say that on the line. So let's leave that off. But he was a great dad and it really has impacted my mindset and what I think is possible, right?
Hmm.
And then I look at because I used to be a teacher and I worked in the inner city in the schools and then we had a son that has been in jail. And so I've done a lot of visits to the jail and I feel like for me personally my opinion on what jail is like versus what my opinion of jail is like is really like.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like God put that experience in our path. I mean, my son is great, and he goes and help. My son now full time helps people who were like him.
Wow.
Yeah, which is great, right? He works at a rescue mission, here in Southern California. That's one of the largest rescue missions, in the country, and he goes after and finds people and helps them and gives them hope and they can really relate to him because he was them, right? Like
Hmm.
he has their path. But I think that also, which I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I feel like you don't know. People think they know what it's like to grow up without a dad and the people that are in the prison system and the recidiveness and how people just end up, it's big money. That's my big, what I'm saying. It's
Yep.
big money jails and it's, the goal is not to make people better. So,
Exactly. Exactly. And we could go down that rabbit hole, but
yeah, we
I want
won't.
to get back on track to what you had because I took us somewhere else. So
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about real estate and men, okay? Because that's what I
let's do
wanted to
it.
talk about with you. So, real estate and men, tell me, I was looking at some of your stuff and I know you have a group. Uh-oh, it says overheated, shutting down.
I got you.
Is that you?
It is me.
Okay, hold on. We're having a technical difficulty, friends.
There you go. So
Okay.
sorry about that.
Do you have a Facebook group? Like, what do you teach these men? Like, what's important? What's the most important men? If a guy's listening to you right now and he's trying to build, I see people are not getting married, or they are
Hmm.
getting divorced, I think most people are unhappily married.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, um, what do you teach these men? Like, what advice do you have for them? And what is the key to having a joyful life and a joyful marriage and a business, a thriving business?
So it's interesting because I stumbled upon this formula. I stumbled upon this formula a couple of years ago,
Hmm.
and it's very similar because I've been trying to figure out things for myself,
Hmm.
right? Like, how do I actually do this with my wife? Because everything that I see on the outside tells me that you shouldn't do business with your wife. And my wife and I, we do business together. And
Hmm.
so everything on the outside tells me that I shouldn't do business with my wife. But I had this gut belief that I knew that God told me that this was my mission and purpose in my marriage. It was to do business with my wife. And so I went on this quest of reading and trying to figure out because the examples around me were not great examples of what that looked like. My parents are still married 40 something years, and they do things together, but not really together, right? So it's
Hmm.
like, where could I find these examples? And so that got me to going to reading a lot of founders. And when I look at the life of someone like Sam Walton,
Hmm.
who founded Walmart, Sam Walton, his wife, Helen, she gave him an ultimatum. This was before Walmart became what it is today. And so she gave him an ultimatum and said, "Hey, bud, it's either that or me." And he chose her. But what happened when he chose her is what I started to gain all of these lessons from and be like, there has to be more people like this. Because what happened was they created a system for their marriage. And so they defined roles in their marriage. They defined times when they would meet. They defined everything. And so she now had a role, and he started to operate his marriage like a business. I
Wow.
also see this in Estee Lauder's life. Estee Lauder, she owns like Mac and Clinique and all these beauty brands. I think it's like 25 of like the world's biggest beauty brands is all owned by Estee Lauder, $45 billion company. And so Estee Lauder, she actually got a divorce from her husband,
Oh,
right?
wow.
She divorced her husband for 3 years. Her husband name was Joseph. She divorced Joseph for 3 years, then came back because she was like, something's missing. Right. So she went out, she noticed that something was missing, but she left them originally because she thought that she was missing out. So that's that
Mm.
person who thinks I got this mission. I got to go out and do all of these great things, and this person is keeping me back. I've heard that story like a million times that my husband or my wife is keeping me back, and so the people go and they get divorced. And so what they also came back and did was they defined roles. So Joseph, he was the COO essentially. He did the finances, the operations, and she was the visionary. And so I started to take all of these examples and created it for my own marriage. And so once we started to meet, so my wife and I, we have relationship KPIs for our marriage.
For real?
Yeah, we do.
I love that. Can you tell them what a KPI is? You and I know what that is, but
Yeah, so a KPI essentially is a key performance indicator that tells you exactly what the most important things that you should work on, right? Or the most important things that you should monitor. Oh my, but Jesus, 1 second.
oh yeah, we're good. We go with the flow here.
It's all good.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, my camera doesn't want to go with the flow. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, so, so KPIs, key
Mm-hmm.
performance indicators, and this essentially tells you exactly what you need to work on. So I'll give you a quick example. If you have a marketing team, and
Mm-hmm.
like we're all in real estate, and let's say you're making cold calls, you know that
Yeah.
if you have 100 leads, that leads to 10 appointments, and that may lead to one contract. So the
Mm-hmm.
KPIs are leads, appointments, and contracts. Those are the things that we're monitoring. And so with a relationship KPI, what that means is what are the things that I have to do in my relationship to get a specific outcome. The contract is the outcome, and the deal, that's the outcome. So, what are the things that I have to do in my relationship that leads to an outcome? And let's just talk about one of the most tracked for men, because I deal with men, is intimacy, right? Like
Yeah.
most men want to know about
When am I
intimacy.
gonna get sex?
Exactly. When does this happen, right? So, what are the things that needs to happen? What are the KPIs you need to track
Uh-huh.
to have a result of intimacy?
Yeah.
Well, there are things that your wife, and every wife is different.
Yeah.
So there are things that most women enjoy. One, affirmations. They want to know that they're doing well, that you see them, right? So when you give affirmations, they feel really good about themselves. I'm not like, again, my one of my wife's things is gifts. She likes when I just pop up and give her gifts or write her letters and all of these different things. When I do that, man, her KPI, her cup is full, right? Like it's not empty. Another thing for her, right now we have a 9-month-old baby. And so when I take the baby and I'll allow her to go do thing and she goes to mommy time, she feels she gets to replenish and rejuvenate.
Yeah.
And all of these metrics, when you track it, it results in a home run.
Yeah. And you need to find out what's important for your wife. Like that's what that love
Exactly.
language, the love language is, right? Book or I don't know, like what was
So
important to them.
So the love language book, I think, is like it's a great appetizer. I think it's really
Uh-huh.
good. It
Uh-huh.
helps you to understand some basic things. But when I go into KPIs, we have like about um 13 metrics that we track for ourselves.
Wow, that's amazing. With your these are your clients, right? That you're helping, right?
Yeah,
And
these
people.
these these are
Mhm.
my clients, and again, everything that I teach them is what I do for me. So when I say like that we track, like I track these things first, and whatever works at home, I then translate, and I'm like, hey, and so I've created a whole curriculum around it where, oh my gosh, let me open my door. I think it's just hot
Oh
in here.
yeah. Get some cool air in there. I love this idea. This is so great. I would never think about put because we track everything for our real estate business, but I would never think to track something for my marital relationship. I love this. This is like life changing for people.
Oh my gosh, it is so life changing, and here's why I think this works when you run your marriage like a business.
Hmm.
A business is so predictable. You
Hmm.
should be able to predict when you're going to do a deal. You should be able to predict revenue. You should be able to predict a lot of things in your business. What if you were able to predict happiness? What if you were able to predict sex? What if you were able to
Yeah.
predict just having fun and joy? And but it takes systems that gets it done. And so having scheduled meetings, having like let's talk about meetings for a second, because
Hmm.
we have meetings with our sales team, our marketing team, with this person, with that person in our business.
Yeah.
When do we actually meet intentionally at home? And I'm not only talking about date night. Date night is cool. I think that's like the bottom level. Date night. And if you're not doing date night, then you're under the bottom level, right? But date night is cool, but what about having a meeting to intentionally talk about finances? What about having a meeting to intentionally talk about emotions? How are you feeling? What about having, so again, 9-month-old baby? 6 months before my daughter was born, my wife and I started having baby meetings to discuss, okay, how, like, what are some principles and things that you want to have for the baby that you grew up with? What are my beliefs? What are some, like, what practices do we are we gonna hit the child? Are we gonna, like, how are we gonna do all of these things? Because what ends up happening is that we have all of these unmet expectations when the baby gets here or whatever, and so we start throwing what you believe and what I believe, and especially having a son before. I have a 14-year-old son. He's about to be 15. I could come into this relationship with all of the do's and don'ts, trying to run everything, when this was her first kid. And so being able to have that meeting allowed us to be on the same page, and now we co-parent seamlessly, just like a business.
This isn't for me. This is like, wow.
it it's a whole different way, and it when you hear it, it just seems so obvious as to why
Yes.
aren't I doing this? Is that
Yes.
what's happening for you now?
Yes, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense because literally you do track everything with your business, right? Because my husband and I work together, right? We're in
Mhm.
real estate together. Worked together forever. And it's interesting that I would never think about. And I see so many people, I know a lot of people. I do see so many people, especially like when they have babies, because some, we have grandchildren now. And that a lot of our kids' friends are having kids, right? And
Yeah.
I would say that one of the big things that I see is the clashing of how to raise the kids, like two parenting styles, right? Two people grew up in two different households. They have two different parenting styles, and then nobody's talked about it or come up with like, hey, this is the formula we want to use, and this is the way and they've not intentionally set like expectations, like what you were saying of like, hey, what's important to you? What's important to me? And like, how can we blend that together? And yeah, I think this is brilliant personally.
And man, thank you. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. And here's here's what I here's what I think, especially when it comes to that word expectations, right? This
Mhm.
is a personal thing that I have against the word expectations because when you have an expectation of someone, there is no gratitude.
Oh, I love that.
There's no gratitude. If somebody does what they're expected to do, you're not grateful. So I'll give you an example. If somebody came and borrowed your car, and the expectation is you're going to bring my car back on Friday, when they bring the car back, I mean, you're not doing backflips. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. But check this out. If they bring the car back, they detailed it, and they have it looking real good and nice and noticeable, oh
Hmm.
my God. Now all of a sudden you're like, that was so nice of you. Like, oh my goodness. Expectations robs a marriage of intimacy.
Oh
Oh
my
my God.
gosh. Keston, that is so good, right?
It robs it. I don't think the devil want me to be on here today.
I know. Like literally, this is so good. So expectation robs intimacy, right? Is that what you're saying?
Expectation, it robs intimacy. It totally robs intimacy and causes persons to
Oh.
not enjoy themselves. And so this is the reason why a man, he's cutting the grass or doing things,
Hmm.
and it's kind of like, well, what do you want for that? You want a cookie? Like, you're the man. That's what you're supposed to do, right? That's kind of the attitude that most people have towards it. Instead, when you don't have an expectation and this person is doing something that you didn't expect them to do, oh my God, now you want to go give them water. You want to give give them a massage at the end of the day. And so I definitely manage my expectations even with my wife at cooking. Every single day she cooks. I don't cook. But every single day I'm like, "Thank you so much, babe. You did not have to do this every day." Because that level of gratitude and love is just different when you just don't expect it. And if she doesn't feel like cooking, I'm like, what you want me to go buy? No pressure at all. I don't expect you to.
That is so
Expectations,
good.
man.
You got to trade your expectations for gratitude.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm. Oh, that is good.
You look like you're just processing a whole lot of stuff right
Yes, it's so good because
now.
my big thing is, and I hadn't thought about gratitude and expectations ever because I'm really big on gratitude and appreciation.
Mhm,
In fact,
mhm.
I'm really big on, I feel like appreciation is even better than gratitude because it's the next level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gratitude is something in the past for me. Gratitude is something that's happened in the past. Appreciation is in the now for me.
I like that. I like
Hmm.
that.
So
Yeah.
I'm big student of gratitude and appreciation. I live my whole life on the lens of looking through gratitude and appreciation. Like the first thing I do every day when I wake up is I'm like, oh, I notice I'm awake and breathing. And then I say a quick prayer and say, thank you, God, for the breath of life so I can serve another day here on this earth and bring glory to you. That is literally what
Mhm,
I do every morning. Okay. And so
mhm.
I'm really big on gratitude. And when my son had cancer, another son had cancer. And I remember God said, when they showed us how much cancer he had, um, God asked me, "Do you really believe all that stuff you post on social media?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Oh, look at this is a hot topic."
It
John told
is.
me to say that. This is a hot topic because it keeps
It
overheating.
is. It is a hot topic.
That God asked me if I really believed about gratitude and appreciation, right? All the stuff I posted. And I said, yes, I did. And he said, well, what do you appreciate about your son having cancer? And
Mm.
I'm like, oh, I said, let me get back to you. I need to think about it, right? And
Hmm.
I got back to him a few hours later because when I got to the hospital, I'm like, okay, I appreciate all the big donors at the hospital. I appreciate like the orderly that's pushing my son
Wow.
to his surgery, the person who's changing his sheets while he's having his surgery, that sweet lady, his doctors, the nurses, the volunteers at the hospital. So and then people who are helping us, and someone was sending out emails for us to give everyone an update. So I was getting like 200 text messages a day, and it was getting overwhelming.
Wow.
And so I
Wow.
started processing it, but I'm so big on appreciation and gratitude, but I never thought about expectations robbing intimacy because you're not coming from gratitude. So this is an aha part of gratitude for me because I'm a big student of appreciation, love, and joy,
Yeah.
and I think that when we live in appreciation, we have more joy. But I
Hmm.
never thought about the expectation, letting go of expectations, so you live in more gratitude, which gives
It's
you more
difficult.
intimacy.
It is. I mean, it gives you more of everything. You're just a happier person because and when I learned this, I used to have this expectation of my wife to be like me, which
Hmm.
is you use a dish, wash the dish. Like don't put everything back. And I'm very like cut and dry and process oriented. She's a little bit more free.
Uh-huh.
And man, we used to fight so much because of the pressure that I put on her because of my expectations. And when I learned this principle, man, it was life changing. When I started to release my expectation, I was so much happier. Oh my God. I was happier because I wasn't expecting her to do anything. It was just like, what does she owe me? She owes me nothing. And so you just be. Now, here's the thing. When we meet and we have conversations about what we desire and like what we would like, she gets to serve me or not.
Hmm. She
I
gets to
serve her
choose.
or not. She chooses. And so if we come up with a framework or something where it's like, okay, you're going to do this, I'm going to do that, and we systematize it. And let's say when you wake up, you make up the bed. That's a part of our system and process, right? If she doesn't make up the bed, I'm not mad. I just make up the bed because I don't expect her to do anything. I appreciate when she does everything, but
Yes.
I don't have the expectation. And so I joyfully make up the bed. You know what that does? That makes her be like, oh my God, babe, thank you so much for making up the bed for me. And now there's more joy, happiness, love, connection because we're just free. Like be you, do whatever you want. Essentially, here are the things that we both would love.
Hmm.
And so when we do it onto each other, we're serving each other. Other than that, I don't expect anything.
Yeah. For me, this has been mind blowing. And really, like we talked about Jesus before, this is exact example like when Jesus washed their feet at the Last Supper, he served them, right? And
Exactly.
with no expectation, right? And
Mhm.
even I think we're not really good receivers, right? Because some of the
Yes.
apostles didn't want their feet washed, right? They're like, no, 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 let me wash yours, right? And so we
Mhm.
have to be good receivers and then also good givers, right? But
Yes,
I like that you guys discuss it. You share what's important, but then there's no expectation that it's not that you're doing those outlining it and going over your KPIs for your marriage for expectations to be met. It's just so you can serve each other at the highest level. Is that what I'm hearing?
that's it. That's
Mhm.
it. It's how can I serve you? Because we're tracking
Mm-hmm.
how I feel about certain things and what can make it a 10. So
Mm-hmm.
if I'm a 5 in a particular area, let's say in the area of sexual fulfillment,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm a 5 in that area and I share what could make it a 10,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not forcing you to do anything, but you at least know how I feel. I believe everyone got married because they actually love this person and want the best for this person.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're meeting weekly and getting updates that this person is a 5 for 3 weeks, would you not feel some kind of way? Like, and again, it's not a force,
Yeah.
but here's the thing now. If something were to happen, God forbid, and here's where we keep the conversation real. Without that fulfillment, that means I'm depleted in an area, and that area still has a desire to be fulfilled, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll tell you guys. Could I keep it real on here?
We're really real here. I share
Okay,
my
cool.
real life. I want you to be really real. I
Okay,
share,
cool.
I started this
Yeah,
so people can get insights on how things work and like how they can maybe get
perfect.
better
Mm-hmm.
and expand their mind. And then maybe
Perfect.
like if they want to pursue more information on a pathway, then they can be like, oh, I can reach out to Keston and find out more about this, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, we
So
keep it real here. I share real crap here.
I love it. I love it. So check it out, right? Again, got a 9-month-old baby.
Hmm.
Everyone that has a baby knows that there's a season where you get none. There's
Hmm.
no sex involved, especially if she had a natural birth, right?
Hmm. Yeah, like
So
physically is like yeah, it's not happening.
it's not happening.
Hmm.
So when we were doing our relationship KPIs and I was reporting on this area, and that area was low, but there was understanding as to why. So it wasn't like I was mad or anything. But here's what happened. I went to a real estate meetup and somebody was like, "Oh my God," a young lady was like, "Oh my goodness, Keston, you're still looking good even though you had the baby." And I'll tell you, Colleen, that compliment made me feel a little too good. You know that good that made me be like, and
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
like,
all that in
whoa,
a bag of chips. I'm all that in a bag of chips.
I'm like, what's that feeling that I feel? I don't normally feel that. And then I had to reflect and be like, oh, my cup is low in this area. This KPI is low. And so getting compliments from other ladies right now is making me feel a kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
Just like if your KPI in a business where you had low leads and you weren't getting like an outcome, the outcome is I'll probably go out of business if you don't have leads, right?
Yeah. Or you work with the wrong leads for too long that aren't really going to turn into anything.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
so that KPI was an indicator of what I was lacking and how it started to make me feel. And what my eyes started to pick up on were not things that, so I would see a young lady passing and I'll be like, why am I noticing ladies? Like, too much. It's too much. Why am I noticing that I have to intentionally be like, dude, keep your eyes? It was because of this cup. And so I took what I felt and found, and I came home to my wife and I was like, babe, I know what season we're in, but this is what is going on with me, man. So we got to figure out some way to take care of your boy because I don't want to be out there feeling, seeing like because it's a natural thing. I didn't intentionally turn that on,
It's just,
but it's
it was there.
it's a result.
Yeah.
And And for other men, what that might translate into, if you're not tracking these things, is I believe this is one of the reasons why some men may cheat
Yeah.
because they don't even know how they feel in that area. And so they don't even know what they're struggling with. And so they
Hmm.
go out and do a thing to feel fulfilled in a specific area outside of their relationship instead of being able to articulate to their wife, hey, this is how I'm feeling. And so by helping men be able to understand these emotions, feelings, and then build a relationship that they could communicate this to their wives and their wives also serve them in that area, change the world, man.
I love that you have a format set up with your wife, a system and a format that you can automatically notice something about what's going on with you out in the outside world, right? And then
Hmm.
be able to come back and because you already have systems and processes in place to talk about all these things, that it's a nice, safe space for you and
Yes.
your wife to talk about, hey, I noticed this odd feeling and this weird attraction to women that I don't normally experience because of what's going on here at house. Maybe you and I can figure out another solution to that in the interim. And that is just beautiful because then you're talking to your wife about it, not your buddies, not your friends, not these other women, right? You're not finding solace outside of your marital relationship. You're actually taking real life, what you're feeling, what you're processing, but you've created a space where you and your wife already have a track record and a history of talking
Yep.
about these things, and you can just bring it to the relationship. It's going to be talked about, and then you guys can find some solutions to the problems no matter what it is, whether it's with sex, kids, business, fun, her feeling like she needs more time, whatever it is for either spouse, right? Like, I love it.
Exactly. Yeah, this works equally good for her as well.
Hmm.
And you said the right word. It's a safe space.
Hmm.
I write things down even if she does something that annoys me or whatever. I may write that down and
Hmm.
hold it for that meeting because it's a safe space to be able to discuss, hey, in the area of whatever topic, this is how I felt when this happened this week. Right. And so we're able to discuss it because there's a safe space that's already on the schedule for us to talk about it. Fridays at 11 a.m., we're going to have our KPI conversation about emotions.
Hmm.
It's already on the calendar.
Do you do it for an hour? What does it look like? An hour?
We have it on the calendar for an hour. Sometimes it
Hmm.
goes for 2 hours or 3 hours. And it's never an outrageous conversation. It's always just deeper conversations. And
Hmm.
so we've ever since we've had the baby, we put it on Friday, but
Hmm.
we typically would do it. We used to do it on a weekend where we could
Hmm.
just kind of have time at it. But now
Hmm.
with the baby, we try to kind of schedule it better. And I want to share something with you because here's also something that I think would help people understand where they are in their marriage or what's happening in their marriage. You know how we often say that we're often a 1 degree separation from somebody else,
Hmm.
and we use it like that?
Hmm.
I've come up with 4 degrees of separation in a marriage. 4 degrees of separation. And it kind of made me go back to geography class when I was in school as a kid, where the vertex is the dot. That's the dot. That is unity,
That's so
right?
good. Hmm.
That is unity. That's the dot. That is the moment when we met and we felt like we were on the same page and we both loved the same things. And there was just this level of this is my soulmate
Hmm.
that we felt. That's the dot. That's unity.
Thanks for joining us on the Born to Be Brave channel. For the full story, listen to part 2 of this interview. You don't want to miss it.